Hey UConn Nation, it's KK Arnold here. If you're looking for the latest UConn women's basketball content, go subscribe to listen up to Phil and Ryan. Go Huskies!
Thursday, July the 6th, Ryan, 2023. And boy, do we have some nice comments to go over at the end of this show. Always like to see Ryan's reaction on comments when it comes to comment time. Ryan, today, spotlight goes on Ayanna Patterson. She is heading into this season as a sophomore, the forward 6'2" out of Homestead High School in Fort Wayne, hometown Fort Wayne, Indiana. Ryan, she won the gold at the 2021 3x3 U18 World Cup. This one of my most memorable moments of her from last season or freshman year was the buzzer beater against Xavier at halftime. She shows flashes of excellence. Now, if she can take that another step forward, we'll see how she progresses heading into her sophomore year. I really like this player a lot. We were high on her as she came out of high school, and we will see what you had to say as the tensions build up as the 2023 season looms, right? Looms, getting closer and closer to November. What do you have as I say a good morning to you from Frederick, Ayanna Patterson?
Yeah, well, the only two sophomores on this team, of course, we went over Ines a couple days ago, and then today is obviously Ayanna Patterson. And I think for me, the two sophomores on this team are quite similar in the fact that they're obviously both sophomores. They came here around similar times. Ayanna was came a little bit earlier, and then Ines was a little bit later, but they basically come up together, and they've had pretty similar seasons. But I do think Ayanna had a little bit of a better season than Ines did, and I think for Ayanna, to me, she's a really exciting player, and I believe that she could potentially be in the starting lineup. Obviously, a lot more. I believe she started one or two games last year for when Aaliyah Edwards was out and Dorka Juhas missed a couple games. I believe Ayanna did start a couple of those games, so she obviously does have a lot of experience, and she did come off the bench in quite a bit of those games. Played, I'd say, about 10 minutes on average, probably. And like you said, she showed flashes, and she played, in my opinion, very well in a lot of those games for when the starters came out. Ayanna came in, and I remember in a lot of those recaps, I talked about Ayanna quite a bit, and it's just because she came in with such energy and passion, and she really wanted to fight for those minutes and prove to Gino, all the players, her teammates, and coaches that she earned those minutes and she deserved to play out on the court. I'm a really big fan of Ayanna Patterson. I believe she can take a huge step forward. I think she's a really gifted player, more so on defense, I'd say, with her height. Really good rebounder on offense and defense. I remember last year she was always fighting to get those rebounds, crashing the boards. She picked up quite a bit of fouls, but most of those I'd say were good fouls. Just playing her heart out there on the court, always giving full energy. I do think she can improve a lot on the offensive side. I think she did get quite unlucky last year with a lot of those shots. She would get the rebound, throw it up, sometimes get two rebounds, and with a lot of those shots, she just couldn't get them to fall. So hopefully she works a little bit during the off season on finishing around the rim, maybe a little bit on her mid-range game, and at the free throw line as well. So I think she can make a lot of improvements on offense, but I think obviously she's a gifted player all the way around, and her height and size allows her to be quite a dominant force, I'd say, as long as she continues to work and keep up her hard work both on and off the court. I think she can have quite the impact this season.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you too, not only on the court, but I want to take things off the court just for a second because the most recent article was June of this year, about a month ago. And a shout out to Maggie Vanoni again for bringing a staff writer, CT Insider, for bringing us, Ryan, this information. over and over again. We can't appreciate it enough as we still try to contact her to get her on the podcast. Would love to have her on sometime, right? But she had posted up an article, UConn's Ayanna Patterson using NIL to raise awareness for autism. You know, we talk about on this podcast how many people dislike as far as NIL deals go, you know, power teams, this and that. But hey, like Maggie was saying, stated in this article that Ayanna could have been using this money for herself to buy clothes, shoes. It says at 18 years old, Patterson was offered $25,000 for her first name, image, and likeness deal. So see right there, Ryan. Again, I talk about this is not only, you know, I getting into comments here. You'll see what I mean here in a second, but we might go off track, talk about stuff that doesn't actually happen on the court. Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's important too. And I think you said it before in this series that I think that this is just as important as what happens on the court. Ayanna uses this deal to raise awareness for autism. So not something that every player would do. And I think that's great. That is truly amazing on her part.
Yeah, and that goes to show not only how great of a person Ayanna is, obviously off the court, like you said, and it also proves that NIL deals can be used as something beneficial, and it can go towards a great cause if the players choose to use their money towards a great cause like Ayanna Patterson is doing. I myself am not too high on the NIL deals, more so the fact that it brings together these super teams like we see in LSU. But in Ayanna's case, and maybe a couple other players that hasn't gotten the media attention or coverage that happens behind the scenes, that some of these players do use the money towards great causes like that and to help the world out. And it goes to show players like Ayanna really do have a great personality and are good-hearted off the court as well.
And I don't know if you were aware, she is in fact, it's reading here according to CT Insider, excuse me, UConn women's basketball freshman back then last year, of course, freshman Ayanna Patterson, blind. She is blind in one eye. So Ryan, again, that's not only again what happens on the court, but hey, yeah, definitely. I mean, if she takes another step forward, just think of what that provides students coming in to the arena to watch these UConn Huskies play, and the amount of motivation that she gives to other parents, other students that dream of playing for this program. So, hey, you know, you don't necessarily, if you know what I mean, have to be perfect. You know, so a lot of challenges that lie ahead with certain people we don't even know about. You know, according to CT Insider, if they wouldn't have posted that, Ryan, we wouldn't have ever known.
Right.
So again, we talk about that too, Ryan. What's that tell you about Ayanna Patterson fighting through battles? You don't have to be necessarily a perfect athlete.
Yeah, and it goes to show that Ayanna Patterson has had to persevere through some things, you know, through the early stages of her life, and obviously has deserved and earned this spot on the UConn Huskies roster. And you can kind of see that when she plays out on the court, and I'm sure when she practices as well, she kind of plays with a little bit of a chip on her shoulder. And I think that goes a long way towards her game. And it goes to show why she plays with such energy and brings as much as she possibly can every time that she steps foot on the court.
Okay. Time for comments. Let's start off with Foster Young. And by the way, we're seeing some new names, Ryan. That is a very, very great sign, especially for the new season to come, 23-24. We cannot appreciate you guys enough. So thank you. Thank you for coming through. Foster Young, you should be showing videos of the players you are talking about. You talk too much about nothing. Well, we love you too, brother.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, when I'm talking to Phil on the phone, I get that impression sometimes too when our phone calls go about an
Ryan is using that
hour
comment to light it up.
go about an hour or 2 hours when I'm on the phone with Phil. But you know, yeah, sometimes I do feel like I'm talking saying a lot of words, but they don't really mean anything. But That could be in the works in the near future. We need
Definitely.
to
Definitely.
definitely, like we've mentioned before, we need to figure out a way to obviously improve the podcast, and we're always working behind the scenes to see how we can improve the podcast and thinking about ideas. So definitely, as the podcast moves forward and time goes along, I'm sure we'll figure out a way to improve the podcast each and every season.
I like this one too to go along with it. No, you do not talk about Amari every episode. I actually like this, Ryan. You talk about Paige almost every episode. That you do, gentlemen. Well, Ryan, I think that's really, really necessary to do, huh?
Well, it's hard not to when you talk about
Yeah.
the UConn Huskies as much as we do, but obviously we all know how important Paige is to this team, and we missed talking about her all of last season because we obviously didn't get to see her play. So I know we're definitely excited, and we know everybody else is as well to see her back this season.
All right. And how about Jason D'Amico? We can't miss this man. He's been through our ups and downs, and we appreciate him a lot. If Ines gains some confidence, she could be a seriously dangerous secret weapon, the kind of player that wins games not on the stat sheet, but between the lines with sound fundamentals, timely dimes, and heart. She will be fun to watch as she grows. Happy 4th. Peace.
And that kind of reminds me of Nika Mule a little bit because we talk about how Nika can't really, she's not really a scorer. That's not part of her game most of the time. But I think if Ines can work on building herself up a little bit more, obviously putting the work in and practicing, she can become similar to Nika Mule and kind of be a defensive minded player. And I think Inessa is gifted offensively as well. Like I said, if she can continue to work on both sides of her game, Nika's a senior, obviously, so maybe Ines can be the player next season to step up and take her spot. We'll just have to see. But like I said, I think Ines and Ayanna could be two really, really important players in the near future for UConn.
How about this one? I wish you guys would do a follow-up on our UConn rookies in the WNBA. I made sure I attended games their teams play. Well, that's impressive. We appreciate you going out to support these one-time used to be Huskies, right, Ryan? Former Husky players in the W now. Hey, tell me if I'm wrong, Ryan. Go back and look at the videos. I told you specifically about Dorka Juhas would ball out, and all signs are pointing up in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's good to see Minnesota got a really good player, as we all know, in Dorka Juhas. Minnesota once was at the top of the league, and then they fell off quite a bit after they lost a couple of players. So maybe they're on the rise up with Dorka Juhas, and hopefully for them and Dorka Juhas, she can be the start of hopefully something new in Minnesota.
July 6th, 2023, Ryan. Hopefully, I can catch you sometime this weekend, but if not, I will see you next weekend. And maybe, Ryan, we can enjoy a nice dip down here in the swimming pool, just as long as the lifeguards are there, because I don't want to be jumping in any pool without any lifeguards watching over us. All right, we'll head on out, Ryan. I appreciate all of your hard work. And again, we appreciate you guys, Phil and Rye, on Listen Up.